Hi Richard, we've got
Yeah,
we've got a an interesting podcast today because, as you can tell, we've got a competitor in the fintech space, and it's a very competitive space, as you can see from Richard's eye. So, if you could introduce yourself and your business, and maybe the black eye as well.
yeah, sure. So starting with the yeah, nothing dodgy about it. I train martial art. Doesn't usually happen, but once in a while, once every year or so, there is a little bit of an injury. Um, but yeah, thanks for having me today. So like you said, my name is Richard. I'm currently CEO for Lyrex Technology. We've been operating for 5 years, but then kind of the whole business is has been in activity longer than that because we've been building the product and before going to market. So
Mm,
we've been in the space for 5 years, and you can, I guess you'd call us embedded finance provider.
mm.
So we help any businesses within the UK and the EA accessing banking rails for a number of different use cases.
Okay, perfect. So, just so we can make sure everyone's got a clear picture of an example or anything like that, is there any case studies, examples that you could share of something that Lyrics has done with your customers?
Yeah, sure. I think usually people come to us for one of three reasons.
Mm,
The one of the primary reason is that they want to deliver a banking-like or fintech product as a whole. So one example of that is one of our early customer is a direct competitor of Revolut in Bulgaria. So they
okay.
have a very, very similar proposition. And so we help them deliver that, and to explain the extent to which we go, that customer is only two people within their team. We do absolutely everything for them. So we will take their brand and deliver the product that they want to deliver and handle all the technology, all the operation, all the regulatory framework that is needed, all the compliance. That's
Mm,
one of the reasons people come to us.
mm,
Second type of use case is people that already have an existing product but want to start complementing it with fintech offering. And the example I like to use, because it's kind of the simplest example, is
mm,
travel insurance, for example, is you might want to you might have someone who is traveling who has a medical emergency somewhere, at
mm,
some remote place of the world where it's difficult to be paying hospital, for example. The
mm.
insurance might want to issue a virtual card on the fly, push money into a virtual card,
Nice.
and allow the end user to use that to pay their medical bills.
Mm,
Um, Another example of embedded finance journey that people often understand and relate to is the usual Uber type journey where you take your Uber ride, you exit, you go to your house,
mm,
you're being a ping, it's like how you arrive safe, 5-star rating, and at the back of that there is a payment journey that is being initiated, but the user doesn't really see it.
mm,
That's the type of, you already have a product, but you want to complement it with some form of fintech or payment piece. And the third one is operational improvement and operational efficiency. So one customer, for example, is in the payroll space.
mm,
What we do doesn't touch at all their customer, but
mm.
they're using us to automate payroll, being able to be quite clever with the lookup of account and things like that. So yeah, that's those three use cases. Either it's a product on its own, complementing a product, or operational efficiency.
Okay, very cool. So yeah, it's pretty full on. So I
Yeah.
can see how you keep busy, and impressive that you still find the time to go to martial arts as well. So uh,
Yeah, I mean, you need to relax, and you need to kind of free the head, once in a while. So that's quite useful. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. So how do you get into something like this? What started the business for you?
I think so. Um, I've always been a technologist with a business mind. I think is how I describe it. Very early, I won't go back into the early days, but very early in my career, I think my second manager approached me saying, "Oh, I have a friend building a business on the side. He's a technologist. Do you want to help?"
Mm,
So very early days, I always had a day job, usually for a corporate. My background is building stock exchanges on the technology side, and then I had the side job buildings or being part of some sort of startup. And I had the chance back in 2006 of those two things merging. So I've always been on the technology business sides of things.
Mm.
And with Lyrex, what started it is really I had the chance to come across an existing business who, I saw that an interesting team. My technology background could bring a lot, and I thought that together we could deliver something. At the same time, I was hearing. I guess I started the way most people start is you see a pain point and you try to fix it. So I could hear a lot of people from my startup advisory background. I could hear a lot of people struggling to access payment systems, struggling to build their fintech effectively. And I thought there was a better way to do it. So that's how we started.
Brilliant. Okay, so it was very natural, and I think you were situated in the right places to be able to develop this and build this solution, this business.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, a lot of the space is very technology focused. So the fact that I have a strong technology background helped me a lot. And to like, again, this bridging tech and businesses is really what we do. But yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so it started off with that one client in your network, someone that you're aware of initially, and then how has that grown across the past 5 years? How many people are you working with? Stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it started with because I've been part of so many startups, I start to be a bit jaded with the plan. I think it's really important to have a plan, don't get me wrong, but
Mm.
also being reactive. So we took it step by step. We first reached out to the market and say, here is the problem we think that people have. Is
Mm.
it a real problem?
Mm.
Is it a problem that is worth solving? Because sometimes you have a problem that no one really want to solve it. So the first part of the business was really that is there is a problem, is there a problem worth solving? So you capture your first customer, and we had our first customer, and we had a number of good discussion. But I think the next stage then became, can we sell it for the price we think we can sell it, right? Your early customer are always slightly different. And then it's fine. It's okay. Well, there is a problem. There is a problem worth fixing. Is great, but can we actually make money and enough money from it? So the follow up from that, and that was really over the first 6 to 10 months, is kind of verifying our assumption, I guess. And then we realized that it worked. People liked it. Um, we've always tried to be extremely professional. So we take great care in our onboarding approach. We treat it as a project. We have weekly report for all the customers. When we say yes, and if we say 3 months, and if it ends up being 3 months and one day, we take it really bad. When we say it's 3 months, it is 3 months. If we don't know, we say we don't know. If it's
Mm.
maybe, we say maybe. But that approach really resonated well with customers. They don't always like the answer, but they knew exactly where they were.
Yeah.
Um, and we build trust from our partner. And then it's the typical business journey around you acquire more customers and you need to grow and you need to kind of hire more people, you need to refine a bit your process. And you arrive at a stage where it's not everything in the head of 4 people. It needs to be documented now because you're from 4 people, you're now 14. And so all those interesting things when you're building a business.
Definitely, definitely. And I think the challenge that I think businesses like yours faces is because it's so much work on the back. Like it's a full on commitment with the clients that you take on. So you can't necessarily take 20 clients on all at once, I imagine, because you're wanting to keep to those timelines and all stuff like that. So how do you approach finding clients, but then also making sure that you're taking on the right clients?
Yeah, I mean, um, I have rarely been in a business where you have too many clients,
Mm.
and you have too many opportunities. You hear about that, but whether I speak to a number of other entrepreneurs, for lack of a better word, I've never heard of that situation in real life.
Mm.
I think what's important though is to qualify out. So it's important to understand what kind of customer you want, right? Especially for a business like ours, which is probably a product business more than a service business.
Mm.
So it's understanding what kind of customer you want. Usually you have period of growth where, yes, sales goes really well and you have loads of inquiry, but usually you're able to, if you understand your processes, you're able to scale more easily. And the good thing usually with having more customer, you also can predict more revenue. So then it's just a matter. It's a matter of hiring the right people, making sure you're doing the right thing. So you're right in the sense that you want to be careful about that and you want to have thought about it so that you can deliver. And there is few things you can do. I mean, I do remember in one of the last period of real growth we had, speaking to customer and say, we're already busy, so there's going to be a month, and you're trying to kind of reduce that, but there's going to be a month's wait time before we start engaging with you.
Mm.
It's never, if you're transparent with your customer, it's never been a problem for us. We've always been able to say, look, it's great, we've signed loads last month. There's going to be a month's wait time before we can get to you, and usually it's not a problem.
Yeah.
On that topic, though, I've seen a number of other businesses failing because they were anticipating too much. So I'm not going to give names, but I've seen two businesses in my advisory career where they had signed a big contract. They were expecting a very large growth, so they pre-hired people to be able to cope with that.
Mm.
And we all know what the real world is like. Is the stuff gets delayed by a month, then gets delayed by 2 months, and then you're like, I have all the stuff I'm paying for 2 months, and I don't have the revenue, and that becomes a real problem.
Yeah.
So I think being transparent with your customers that, well, maybe you need to stage it, maybe you need to maybe there's different ways to do it, but I think I would caution against anticipating too much the growth.
Yeah. Definitely.
Hopefully it answers your questions. But
yeah, absolutely. And I think also one thing that I've noticed is sometimes in those situations, people will stop the prospecting, so they stop filling their pipeline with more businesses coming in. So they say, okay, well, we've got enough clients now for the next 6 months, so they stop putting so much effort or time into signing new clients. Maybe they think that they don't need to hire that salesperson anymore, and then something drops out, or they decide actually we've done this a lot faster, and then all of a sudden they're 6 months behind because they haven't been prospecting. So how do you fill the pipeline at Lerix at the moment? What's your strategies for filling the pipeline?
Yeah, we have a fairly typical strategy in terms of marketing. We do little marketing. I think one thing that we want to change, but we do a little bit of marketing that effectively generate inquiries. We also use our suppliers networks are quite good at referring us, leads effectively, and then we work those leads on a typical sales process. I think you're right. There is. And I know of people within the fintech industry that have historically signed a lot of people and I had no idea how they were going to deliver them, right? And I think it's a different thing. I think if you don't know how you're going to deliver, how you're going to scale your delivery, yes, maybe you need to be careful about saying it because then you build a bad reputation. But if we are clear around your processes, that should allow you to scale, fairly easily. The slowing down sales, I've seen it as well. I always think, I don't know, instinctively, I think it's the wrong thing. You're in the business to grow, you're in the business, to sell. If you're not signing customer, your competitor will be signing them. And again, like the last thing you want is to sign someone you can't deliver. But that's where I think you need to qualify out. You need to be very clear on who you want to qualify and who you want to qualify out. Maybe someone is, things we've done in Lerix, for example, is some people, we felt that we couldn't, maybe they were too big or slightly outside our appetite. We felt that we wouldn't have been able to provide a great service at that point in time. And yeah, again, you either qualify out or have a discussion or say, so don't say yes to everything. Be clear about what you want to say yes to. But in that space, make sure you can deliver it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay. So, and I think what would be interesting to hear from your side of things is, would you say when you're selling or bringing in new clients, you mentioned referrals, you mentioned the network. So, do you find that a lot of the time it's the clients already have the need, or are you educating them on the needs?
Both people that come from referrals usually already have a need, or at least I would say an interest, right?
Mm,
It's not always a clear need, but at least they want to understand, they have some sort of idea.
mm,
Um, what One of the challenge in the fintech industry we are in is that there is loads of misconception. We, number of people use the same word to describe different things and different word to describe the same thing. So there is an element of customer education within the sales process. So sometimes people come with a need or interest, and it's like you need to kind of refine that a little bit. But we also approach people that don't necessarily understand that we exist, what we do,
mm,
um, and that becomes. And I think a business like Lyrex, we already do a bit of service and a bit of product.
mm,
And I'm saying a bit because it's not full service, but most referrals, they would be more of a consulting type of sales where
mm,
we kind of explain, kind of see what we can deliver, what we can't, how does that fit.
mm,
So there's a service element in that. Most people that we contact, we usually contact them with a clear use case, with a clear problem, a clear solution to it. That's how we've seen it. And we can still evolve it, but the original discussion is around, here is the problem we think you have. Yes, great, we have a solution for it.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think then it gives you more when going down that route, it gives you more availability to scale, like you said, and because you've got the team in place and you've got the offering nailed down, the solution decided, it's easier for then you to take on the clients and know as well, okay, well, we can take on this many this month and continue scaling it up that way.
Yeah, and a big piece of scaling for us is I'm an automation geek, so I spent 3 years of my career selling automation, to the point where one of the things I delivered in a previous life is we managed to automate the full testing for a stock exchange. So we allow the stock exchange to change one of their key supplier on Monday and be live on Friday. They were able to retest the whole stock exchange in 2 hours. And that's kind of the extreme of what automation can do. So I am an automation geek, and a lot of it is reused in Lyrex. A lot is automated.
Mm,
We're able to commission a whole fintech platform in about 10 minutes for a customer,
okay.
fully automated. So someone can come to us and say, you know, I want a consumer proposition with two virtual card and that kind of limit and that kind of fees.
Mm,
And we can give them a version of the platform to play with within 10 minutes. There's still a compliance element at the back of it that takes a bit longer. But my point is we've automated, a lot. So that helps in scaling because that scales extremely easily.
yeah.
Automation doesn't make mistakes. And so yeah, that's one of the things we rely on heavily to be able to scale.
Mm.
And being a technology business, allows you to play with those things a lot. So
Definitely. And how much value do you place on automating the onboarding process? So this is a conversation that I've had a few times in the past weeks where I think that the onboarding is really key in having a smooth process because I mean, there's a few different factors that come into play of why it's key, but how much value and time do you put into automating the onboarding process of people when they first start working with you?
So do you mean the onboarding of an end user wanting to open a digital account and wanting to get a card, or the onboarding of a program?
Yeah, I think both really. I think first off with the clients, but then also the ease of use for the end clients, the end users as well.
Yeah, so for the client, it's really a mix.
Mm,
It's really a mix. So there are things which are easy to automate. For example, we can ask a bunch of questions through our process. So we have kind of a four-stage process where we have what kind of program, what kind of limit, what kind of fees, who are you, those kind
mm,
of. At the back of that, um, at the back of that, you tend to have template document, around forms for underlying partners, some element of TNC, stuff like that, where you can automate all of that, and
mm,
that's fairly easy. Um, if they're using, we give customer the choice to use our own front end. We've actually open source our front end. So if anyone kind of is struggling to build their fintech front ends, they can just take ours and do what they want with it. But if people choose our front end, we automating the whole commissioning of the front end with their criteria, their colors, their logo, etc.
mm.
Uh, the compliance onboarding process, there are still a lot of things which are manual. We want to understand, we want to do extensive KYB checks, for example. So we want to have discussion, understand what they're doing, understand what their go-to-market strategy is. We depending on their technical integration, but we want to also have technical discussion with them to make sure that they're handling technology in the right way. So there are pieces in that which are not automated. Who knows, in 5 years with AI, maybe everything will be automated, but at the moment it's not. When it comes to the end user process, it's a lot more automated. Effectively, we capture the information and we run an automated process, and
Mm.
then it gives us a decision of either, yeah, we are sure it's fine and we proceed, or we don't know for whatever reason, or we think it's not fine, in which case it gets reviewed by someone manually that can use both, can use the result of the automated process, but also look at all the information, all the document, and make a human assessment.
Okay. Yeah, and do you feel like again that maybe in 5 years' time that could be a fully automated process as well if AI continues to develop? Or do you think there's always going to be a need for the human oversight?
It's a good question. I mean, within the end user onboarding, I can see situation, I know of some providers on the market where they're now using AI to an extent that I would say they get a better result than from a human interaction, right? Because one advantage of one advantage of using AI and one product I know of, called Marker, is able to screen the web for every single piece of information almost in real time, every single time. A human being, there's only so much you can do, so much you can think about. So I think in that space, AI will make it more powerful. I There will always be need for people. I mean, it's the typical phrase where they say, "Oh, AI will take my job." No, AI will not take your job. Someone using AI will take your job,
Mm. Yeah.
but AI by itself won't take your job. And the point is that there is always going to need people to think about what the AI should be doing, or enhancing the AI, looking at other piece of information, um, you know, looking at a situation where maybe there's always going to be a situation where the AI made a mistake, like human people make mistake, right? So that feedback loop is important around, okay, well, let's look in the past and let's see where it
Mm.
was less than optimal and how can we fix it. So, I can see a process which is fully automated, but there's always going to be the feedback loop of improving it. And that's going to be, I don't, well, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see AI doing that yet. So there's always going to be some element of human interaction.
Definitely, definitely. No, I agree. So, and then on the sales front, how much automation do you put into that side of things, or do you go down the route of hiring more team? What does that look like for you?
It's closer to hiring more teams. There is like the usual automation in the campaign email and things like that, but I it kind of worked for some businesses, but a business like Lyrex, we've built a lot on, based on trust and being reliable. And sometimes the challenge with those automated email is that you can see it's an automated email. We've all received the I, first name. I think there's place for automation early in the pipeline. I don't see that being a problem, but as you kind of build the relationship, that's all human for us. I know of another business, another industry that they've gone mad with automation. I mean, it works for them. They've gone mad with AI. They generate cold call or semi-cold call with AI, and effectively they drop a qualified opportunity on someone's desk. So you can go extremely far,
Yeah.
but for Lyrex, we're not. That's not quite what we're doing. Is the automation is right at the front of the pipeline, and the rest is sales team in the office. Doing it in using AI tool to refine what can be done, but ultimately the interaction is with a human being.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think that's the best way, because it's like when people always like to interact with a person at some part in the process. I think there was a study out of Asia where they ran two of the same hotels, and one had a completely automated check-in system, and one had a front desk where you'd have to go and speak to the person, and obviously it's less efficient going and speaking to the real person. The hotel exactly the same, and the only variable that was changed was that. So the when they check in, if it's automated or if they speak to a real person. And I think the satisfaction rating was 40% higher from going to
Yes.
speak with the real person instead of the automated check-in system. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean that's we could talk about AI for hours and hours. I think there's loads of things to consider, time and place. If you're on holiday, for example, you have the time you want to speak to someone. If I'm checking it for business and just want to check in, checking out, maybe I prefer AI. But there's loads of, you're right. I think your point is it's not as simple as saying replace everything by AI. You need to kind of think about it, and there's a place for it and a place for human people. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So what does the next year look like, or 2025? What's the plans for Lyrex?
So for us, this year is all about growth. You know, um, growing sales through having more sales and marketing, so growing the income. I think we have a good team foundation to be able to scale without necessarily growing the headcount massively and the cost massively. So I think we've built a very strong foundation. So now it's all about growth, and um, we're in the process of raising significant money. We have a number of things we want to do, probably end of this year, beginning of next year. Using automation or AI more is one of them. I don't want to kind of reveal all our plan, but for us this year is all about growth, be more present on the market. The feedback we keep getting is that we have a really strong position. Our customers love it, but we don't hear about Lyrex that often, so we want to change that, make sure we are present. So yeah, I think so far we've built a very, very strong foundation. Now we can really grow quickly on it.
Okay, yeah, definitely. No, I agree. And I think because you've got the people in place and the operational procedures to now onboard more people as you go, yeah, it makes sense. So what would you say is the biggest lever to pull to grow? Is it just more marketing, more sales, spend more money, or refine the offer? What are you thinking?
I mean, there's always an element of refining the offer. I mean, the product is there, the product works. There's no big gap in the product, but you always want to listen to customers and make sure that you stay attuned to what others are doing. So there is an element of that, but I think it's a smaller element in the pipeline. I think it's really about doing more of the same. What we've done, is is really starting to really pay. So we want to keep doing it. So
Mm.
yeah, sales and marketing is a big piece of what we want to do. Um, we've established internally a fairly good process for ideation and looking at different markets and things like that. So it's like it's replicating that and being able to do more of the same. I think is going to be a big trend for this year. Um, and then some elements to start preparing us to the project for next year.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I think this year keep following AirX. I think you're going to see some very interesting things happening.
Definitely, definitely. Well, we're definitely set up another podcast as well for maybe a year down the line, and we can
Yes.
reflect on the past year and see what's changed, what new levels you've reached, and everything like that. But yeah, thanks for hopping on today, Richard, and yeah, I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for